الكرام، ننتقل الآن إلى حلقة نقاش بعنوان تجسيد المرونة، تحقيق النمو المستدام من خلال تطوير سلاسل الامداد. تتفضل مديرة الجلسة الأستاذة جايد مارجروم، المدير التنفيذي لعمليات المشتريات في مجموعة ميس، للترحيب بضيوفها في هذه الجلسة.
This one. Okay, brilliant. I think we're slightly 1 minute late, so I think we'll start the panel now. Thank you very much to our audience for joining us today. We have a great panel lineup for you. We're focused today on resilient in action, leveraging supply chain development for sustainable growth. So we're bringing an esteemed panel members of senior leaders from boardroom to practical application. So really today we're looking to bring to life the conversation. We're looking to bring that real experience around what is happening with supply chain, with the disruptions, and how organisations are putting practical steps and strategies in place to realise benefits, but also deal with those actions and respond to the constant change in the environment. So today, really excited to be in Saudi Arabia. We have a panel of people from different locations. I'm going to now hand over to the panel. So my name is Jade Marjurum. I'm the Global Director for Mace Group, Procurement and Supply Chain. Go over to you next.
My name is Sohrab Zuberi. I'm the CEO of SBT Sendex, a transport and logistics company in Saudi Arabia.
Hello, Saulo Herrera, COO for the Way Casting and Forging. Nice to meet you, sir.
السلام عليكم مساكم الله بالخير جميعا. My name is Ahmed Al-Zahrani. I'm the Director of Industrial Development and Strategic Supply Department in Saudi Aramco.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so let's begin now to talk about how supply chain is evolving in a new era. So firstly, I just want to ask each of you panel members, how has the supply chain roles evolved in this new era? What's the biggest shift that you see? And can you just give me one action that the organisation is taking through your experience?
Okay, thank you. So if you look at supply chains traditionally, they're all built on the concept of efficiency. So the purpose of the supply chain was to be efficient, to be resilient, and to be adaptable. Fast forward to today, and with the advent of better intelligence, better data, the whole concept of supply chains is to be more predictive. So being able to respond to situations prior to having to react and giving knee-jerk reactions. So I think from my point of view, the real shift that we've seen is the addition of data and technology in that sphere. An example of where I think we can build resilience is about visibility. And it's not just about visibility in pure data terms, but it's also about visibility along all parts of that supply chain. So if you talk about buffering, rerouting, holding back capacity, those are all strings within the supply chain armory that we now need to build in. So it's moving very much away from the traditional efficiency-based supply chain to more of an adaptive, intelligent supply chain that's more anticipative in terms of reactions.
I really like the... Hello? I really like the perspective there. I think in terms of the data and how that actually informs strategy, so business can actually predict, they can get ahead of the curve in terms of how they manage their supply chain. So next, can I come to you, please?
I would like to start to speak after the 2020. On the pandemic, we faced a really big disruption in the whole world. So we start to learn as a company how to deal with these kind of situations. The volatility makes that supply chain becomes a key. These kind of situations creates as a core driver, and we need to deal with the competitiveness and risk management. In the competitiveness, we just found that we were not possible to have the same competition as before because all the situation after the pandemic. The risk management we face stops, shutdowns, productions, forecasts that we cannot achieve. So from the 2023 and ahead, as well, we face that many companies are still facing or report significant disruptions. So as a company, we start to work as a regionalization. It's something that we start to work to deploy local suppliers or how to achieve, do not depend on so large logistics. Another was the multi-sourcing. In the multi-sourcing, in the past we just found or we just depend on one or two, and we face a situation in global programs in which we were working around America, Europe, and Asia, and then but was only one supplier around the world. And during the pandemic, after the pandemic, we faced a lot of troubles with only one supplier. So we just learned that we need to deploy on multiple suppliers to do not have everything in just one box. And finally, the digital. We need to learn to expedite digital decisions, to have not only as a visualization, as has been just said, as well to take decisions.
Brilliant. The global perspective is really key. You know, there are lessons learned that we can draw on as organisations that really, inform and embed things that have been put in place previously that can be carried forward. So the local approach, again, and building resilience in the local resources, the development of that strategy is key. Ahmed, can I come to you next, please?
Thank you, Jade. Assalamu alaikum, Jazakallah bil khair again. I would like first to express that I'm privileged to share this panel with the esteemed panelists here with me. Looking forward to have this as a fruitful panel discussion. But before that, I want to extend my appreciation to the Ministry of Transport and Logistics Services for this event and the organizing team as well. You said it right, Jade. Now supply chain disruption is becoming the norm. And maybe I can use analogy from the football field, since most of Saudis are passionate about football. I think now supply chain resilience has to move from playing defense to playing offense. It's not about mitigating risks anymore. It is about seizing opportunities, create agility, enhance the value, long-term value creation. So in Saudi Aramco, when we view supply chain resilience, we consider it as a strategic enablers for us to continuously delivering energy to the world without interruptions. And maybe quickly, I can share with you how this strategy is driven. We have basically several execution pillars. I can name a few of them. First is localization and strategic collaboration. Through our localization flagship program, ICTIFA, we are committed to build a robust, competent local supply base here in the kingdom. Alhamdulillah, today we have more than 3,000 local suppliers competent between manufacturers and service providers, and they have proven themselves time and time again through helping us to navigate through difficult times that we have witnessed in the past few years. And we are continuing with this commitment to build this resilient local supply base in the kingdom. The other dimension is strategic collaboration. We are also collaborating with international global leader suppliers to transfer technology, building technical capabilities, and enhancing eventually the resilience of the local supply base. And by doing that, we are not only shortening lead time, enhancing resilience, but also contributing to the economic diversification and transformation of the Saudi economy in line with the visions, the Kingdom Vision 2030.
Brilliant, thank you. So the first question that I want to talk about actually, so we've talked about local and we've talked about global. So can you just talk to me through how do you see that? How do you balance those two different things? How do you draw on that global supply chain, the lessons learned, and how do you then carry through that in terms of the local supply chain development and relationships?
We localize as a product producing casting and forgings in Kuwait. So we are working in the technology transfer. So this localization that has been led by ICTIFA, we are handling with this transfer technology with some Dusan in this case, with Dusan. So inside the KSA, remove the exposure to multiple borders. We are going to reduce the multiple borders. We are going to achieve shorter lead times. We are going to ensure that the production is going to be localized, and we are going to avoid some kind of disruptions. In regards to the technology, we are getting full development in forging and castings into wave. So this development, we are achieving new qualifications. We are working very close to Aramco, very close to other companies, in order to deploy and develop this local productivity. So we are working very hardly to localize these products and to beat this kind of disruption that we may have or could be happening.
Great. Okay, so I'm just going to come back to you, Ahmed, actually, because you mentioned the pillars, which I really like, because I always think the way that we simplify things, we break it down, people understand. When we talk about technology, so can you talk to me about technology and how does that underpin your strategy?
Yeah, by all means. Speaking about pillars, since Tweg here with me, I will mention another strategic pillar that we are embarking on to develop a resilient supply chain. In Aramco, we have invested in large-scale foundational projects that form the backbone of our local supply chain ecosystem. And one of them is Twig. We have also steel plates manufacturing facility, the upcoming one. We have also the international maritime industries. We have also Spark. So we have invested as Saudi Aramco in project large scale that will be a of fundamental importance to develop the supply chain ecosystem. And all these projects will be formalized into specific deliverables that will help our local suppliers to achieve maximum local content levels, and in turn, of course, contributing to the Kingdom's Vision 2030, contributing to the GDP. Digitalization is also another execution pillar, and we have invested massively in the past few years in digitalization of our supply chain. It has been embedded into our supply chain as a way to be more predictive than reactive. So we have the supply chain control tower, we have the digital twin, and all these technology solutions will help the company to be positioned to be ahead of the curve, as you mentioned, to predict disruption and take take a clear decision making or intervention based on insightful data that will help us to take action and, God forbidden, if any supply chain disruption that's happening.
Brilliant. So technology obviously gives us more visibility, right? And the greater visibility, the more the intentional organization decisions can be made. And so really, that is going to be a game changer in supporting supply chain resilience for the future. So I'm now going to take us to another topic, which is around sustainability and compliance. So I'm going to come to you here around this area. So again, when we're looking at strategies, we're balancing multiple organisation priorities. How do you think we balance both those sustainability objectives and cost objectives within the organisation? And could you just talk to me a little bit about how your organisation has approached this?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing to say here is, if you're going to adopt a sustainability approach, you've got to see it as a holistic solution. And as a holistic solution, first of all, your internal customers, as in your own team, your own organization, need to buy into it. So that's the very first thing. You need to buy into sustainability before you can go out and sell it as a product in the market. Now, in order for us to do that practically, what we did in SBT is we engaged with an external consultancy to put together a decarbonization roadmap for us. So understanding what is our carbon footprint, how are we affecting the environment, and for our team to be engaged in actually putting together plans of how we believe we could be more efficient. So that's one part in terms of the academics behind understanding carbon neutrality. Then what you do on top of that is you get your operations team to say, well, you've got objectives, you've got budgets, you've got numbers to hit. How do you become more efficient? And I'll give you a practical example. One thing that we've done in SBT is we've started transitioning our fleet from traditional trucks to electric vehicles. So part of the solution is electric vehicles, and we're now on our second tranche of EVs servicing Saudi Arabia, in particular Riyadh. But that's not a solution in itself. So the team looked at that and said, okay, great, we can do EVs, but then how are we charging the electric vehicles? And so as part of our decarbonization roadmap, we're looking at, well, where's the solar power that we can apply to our hubs to provide efficient, carbon neutral, or low carbon, not even carbon neutral, but low carbon solutions to charge the EVs, to charge our EVs. So that becomes part of the solution. And that in itself brings efficiencies and cost reduction. And on top of that, you look at the bigger picture and you say, well, if I move from a fleet of very large trucks to small EV vehicles, how do I manage my capacity in an efficient way? So something we've done is we've started buying double-deck trailers. So we're one of the first companies in Saudi Arabia using double-deck trailers within the kingdom now. So pretty much like an airplane concept, the more you can store, then the carbon footprint per pallet is reduced. So now we have double-deck trailers transporting between Dammam and Riyadh, Riyadh and Jeddah, and vice versa, which is taking the extra load but being at a lower carbon footprint, servicing our fleet, which is e-vehicles, which inshallah in the future would be charged by solar panel stations. So that starts to give you an idea of an overall solution. And the team buy-in, because they understand that's also going to be cost-effective. It's an end-to-end solution. And I think that's basically where it sort of all ends up with. Once you start building a sustainable ecosystem, then the team are bought into it. And then anything that's not sustainable almost feels like a foreign body. So you're like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to bring some diesel in. I don't want to bring that in because it's not part of a new modus operandi. Okay.
What a powerful message. Right at the start of this session, I think we opened up saying about how organisations take action. And actually that summary is just that. It's about investing in the right expertise, it's creating the right strategy for the organisation, and then actually being able to track those tangible benefits. That's really what it's about, creating that ecosystem. Okay, so Ahmed, I'm coming back to you again, actually, for the next question, which is actually around investment. So we talked a little bit there around organisations investing in the expertise they need, invest in the right strategy and how they transition that into their organisation. What leadership behaviour and culture shift do you believe builds that resilience during disruption? So can you talk to me around what you're doing in terms of that behaviour and cultural leadership shift?
Thank you, Jade, for the question. I think I'll take you back to the ICTIFA program that we have developed as an umbrella for driving investment and driving local content and localization. Allow me to start maybe with a quote from our president and CEO. He said, ICTIFA has made Aramco business more cost efficient, more resilient, and even more reliable. So this statement captured basically the essence of the ICTIFA program. And if you look at the history of Saudi Aramco, we have been active in localization for many years. We started with the support of traders and good suppliers. Then we extended the scope to include manufacturers and service providers. But we have realized that that's the right time now to take localization to the next level, which is to have a comprehensive localization program that offers a mutual benefits for suppliers and for Saudi Aramco and serving the kingdom's Vision 2030. This is the launch of the ICTIFA program. It was back in 2015 with the aim of developing competitive and robust local supply chain in Saudi Arabia. And alhamdulillah, I can say that when we launched the program back in 2015, our local content in procurement was 35%, as Mr. Rubi'an mentioned today. And we are proud that we took it to 67% by end of 2024. And inshallah, on track to achieve 70% by end of this year. And this would not have happened without the support from strategic partners that we have worked with over the years, without the support of many government entities and authority who supported this journey. And we were blessed and guided and inspired by the Saudi and the Kingdom's Vision 2030. So you can say the investment ecosystem now is healthy, it's robust, it is enabling investment in the supply chain. And I can say, for example, for the ICTIFA program, we have a dedicated team to support investors from day one. It's a pre-feasibility until we have their facility inaugurated in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we want to make sure that the journey of the investors is as smooth as possible. So we have the dedicated team to provide end-to-end support to them. And alhamdulillah, I can say that these efforts has resulted in establishing a 350 recently local manufacturing facility with around $9 billion in terms of capex. And all these efforts, at the end of the day, contributed to more than 240 billion US dollars as the GDP contribution, and created more than 200,000 jobs of direct and indirect. So, in summary, I would say it is perfect timing now for investors to come and localize their product or services in Saudi. We have very competent, very robust investment ecosystem that will be catered to accommodate for these ventures for expanding localization, and as a result, it will feed into improving or enhancing the local supply chain resilience in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Brilliant. You've just articulated some really clear leadership decisions that have been made in Aramco, and intentionally, you've built a product, a solution, as you called it, around this area. What do you think, the clients need to do? Aramco has put a lot of time and investment, but what other commitments do you think clients need to give the supply chain in terms of that investment? What commitments do you see?
Yeah, I think we are clear on the commitment for both sides. And that's why, part of the ICTFA program, we have developed more than 300 corporate procurement agreement, which is basically a long-term relationship between us and our strategic suppliers. And all of these agreements has specific mandates from both sides during the journey of these corporate procurement agreement that can go from 5 to 10 years and can be extended further. So we are clear on the expectations for both sides. We know at the end of the day, suppliers are business people. They are after the bottom line. So we are cognizant of this. And that's why when we devised our long-term agreement, it's developed jointly with our strategic suppliers to make sure it is a win-win solutions for both of us.
Brilliant. Win-win. That's always the one to aim for, isn't it? Okay, so I just want to come to you, Sohrab, next. I'd like your reflections on supply chain. And we talked there around partnerships, agreements, corporate contracts. What have you experienced in terms of these arrangements? And actually, when you set out to obtain your expert consultants to develop a solution for you, what did you need from all parties within your organization to really get the buy-in and investment you needed from your board?
Okay, that's a very good question. So I think that the starting point in that is you need your board to buy in and to agree on a strategy for the company. And the key part of the strategy is putting together guide rails. So it's knowing not just what you want to focus on, but also what you do not want to focus on. Once you've got that and you're able to articulate that, I think then it becomes very easy to see what becomes a natural part of your growth strategy and what is something that you need to then treat as an add-on or something that you need to go back to enhance your strategy.
A stretch target, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's the point there.
Okay, brilliant. So compliance, I'm going to come to you. When we talk about compliance, how do we balance? We've talked a lot around different objectives. We've talked about cost drivers. We've talked about resilience. We've talked about, the longer term implementation plan and how we're going to work with the supply chain. How do we balance that with compliance, timeframes? If we look at that from a global perspective, could you share your thoughts with me, please?
Yeah, we are working in order to address this kind of to focus in the future. We work together, rather the logistics, production. We need to share we need to find different suppliers for our raw materials, for example, in order to avoid this kind of situation, this kind of problems. The compliance is not only for us, not only from the raw material, the production as well. We need to have some kind of governance in the energy consumption. We need to take watching about the carbon print. We need to take care in regards of the lead times. We need to be focused in the inventory, all the costs that is related, the waste, reuse, to be focused in the reduction of the costs that do not give us any value. So we are working in order together to have this scenario with the different suppliers that we currently are working with.
And how do you think you better support, when we talk about ecosystem, but if we think about that supply chain network, logistics, how do we ensure that people are aware of what those compliance requirements are?
We need to secure volumes first with the ICTBA. I think we are going to secure good volumes. As well, we need to exploit the regional logistics, which is going to be the landed cost. As well, the early investment process capability. We are working in order to develop internal capabilities that has been key for other countries. As an example, the duplex or super duplex, which is a material which, for example, for America, should be built only in America. So it's localized. So as well, we are working in that. And supplier strategy, which is the multi-sourcing. We are working for the raw materials for multi-sourcing. We start to work with Japan. We start to import from Korea. Now we are localizing to Saudi, taking raw materials from the own Saudi. In the some ways that is not easy to get, as some suppliers they don't have. We need to do it in GCC. So we are working in that development in order to approach.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to just have one last question from each of our panel members. I'm going to start with you, Ahmed. So what's the single most critical factor? And I appreciate that actually at Aramco you've spent a long time on this in developing your strategy, but what do you think one of the critical factors are for organizations to take forward?
I think supply chain resilience is a journey, and companies and countries, they have to continue investing in supply chain resilience. And this is our approach in Saudi Aramco, is continue investing, continue innovating. But if I may focus on one important aspect of this journey, is the human resources. I think in the supply chain sector, we see a growing interest from the youth of the kingdom in supply chain, which is really healthy. And I really consider it as a potential sector for our youth to educate in and to work in. And I can see a good number of Saudi youth here that they are interested in this part of the business. So if you look at the supply chain in general and what we do to attract and make sure that we have a healthy pipeline of human resources or a skilled manpower needed for this, Aramco made significant steps in the past few years. We have established 16 national training centers strategically located around the kingdom, covering more than 100 disciplines that are needed for our supply chain, for our suppliers. And these centers graduated already or trained already more than 80,000 Saudis, and on track, inshallah, to train and graduate more than 100,000 by 2030. And all these skilled manpower will be fed into our local supply chain, feeding into our suppliers' need. Because if you need to build a resilient supply chain, you need to have the human resource needed for these suppliers or this supply chain. And we have realized this from day one when we launched the program. There are a minimum requirement that you have to satisfy to reach to the maximum level in terms of local content, ecosystem, and we mentioned what we have done in terms of ecosystem, and the human resources needed for achieving these levels of local content.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Come to you next, please. Yes, thanks.
Okay, we need to keep working in anchor procurement policy, in requirement environmentals, align circular carbon with our suppliers, not only with ourselves. We are working in the development of technical skills that has not been deployed in the kingdom. We have reached till 9 nationalities in which we have working together in the case of Kuwait, in which we are developing technical skills, not only with our engineers, as well with the labor force. We need to deploy the suppliers sustainable with the scorecards. It's something that as well we found that it's not only to find a supplier with the material, we need to bring the scorecards in order to keep the sustainability of the material. As well, we need to how to balance this priority is the total cost of the ownership. The energy usage, for us, is very important, the energy usage, because we spend a lot of energy and we have a rate, global rate, in which we need to accomplish, and as well the waste management. The compliance reward as well, and fund sustainability with energy projects. The sustainability projects normally have a high value, high cost. So we need to find internally programs that create savings in order to pay by itself. So the governance that we need to work with and we need to comply is not only in the internal company as well. We need to deploy it along with the local suppliers, with the GCC suppliers, and around the world. So we are going to be focused mainly for the relocalization or localization in this case, and the risk management that has been really key in the resilience during these years.
Brilliant.
Okay. So I think what the takeaway that I'd have here is that we've all got to appreciate that supply chains are in themselves an ecosystem, and they are constantly developing and adapting. And the original idea of a 2PL, 3PL, 4PL just keeps growing. At last count, I think we're on 9 PLs now, which is adaptive AI and crowdsourcing. So that whole model of supply chains is going to constantly change. And I think the key challenge, and I completely agree with Ahmed here, the key challenge here is actually about leadership and management. Because if supply chains and intelligence and AI is going to be integrated into these supply chains, the challenge of leadership is to move away from trying to be the cleverest person in the room to being able to bring in the best brains into your organization and being able to inspire them. So that's the challenge I think we have in supply chains now. And I think what we've also got to be very careful of is not to disbalance the importance of data and AI intelligence versus human intelligence. So you've really got to make sure that you're still investing in your people, in your human capital, as well as in your IT capital. So for me, I think that's the resilience check that we've got to do. We've got to make sure that we're able to train and develop our people, not at the expense of IT, and not grow our IT at the expense of training and developing people. Because I think that in itself is how you're going to future-proof your organization.
Great reflections there from the panel members today. I'd like to thank the audience for listening to the panel today. Some key takeaways for me, and I think actually these are things that organizations can readily take away and implement tomorrow, is have the right strategy, put the right investment in place, and implement plans, not just let them sit there on the shelf and collect dust. It's really about how do you translate that strategy into delivery and bring those partners and supply chain along that journey with you. Thank you very much, panel members, and thank you, audience, for listening for us today.